Hello, hi everyone. I hope you all are doing well. So, today we are going to start with chapter 8, that is reproduction in plants. So, in this chapter, we are going to learn what is reproduction, the different types of reproduction, and in this video, we are going to majorly focus on the first type, that is asexual mode of reproduction. So, let's get started. Produce its own kind is a characteristic of all the living organisms. You all must have observed that. Every living organism give birth to the same kind of individual. Like for example, cat will give birth to a cat. Dog will give birth to a dog, right? Of the same kind. अगर कोई भी organism, living organism है, तो वो reproduce करते हैं. Okay, it is one of the characteristic of living organism. And we have already learned this in class 6. So the production of new individuals from their parents is known as reproduction. Okay, so reproduction is a process by which a new individual is born from their parents. But how do plants reproduce? We have already learned a lot about animals giving birth to a new animals. We have even seen around us there are lots of animals giving birth to the young ones. But what about plants? How do they reproduce? So there are different modes of reproduction in plants, which we will be learning in this chapter. So let's start with modes of reproduction. Modes means what are the different types of reproduction? Plants कैसे कैसे reproduce कर सकते हैं? So in class 6, we have learned about different parts of flowering plants. Okay, plants के बहुत सारे parts होते हैं. Try to list the various parts of the plant and write the functions of each. So let us try to list the different parts of the plant. So plants have roots. Roots are going to support the plant. They provide anchorage to the plant. Roots के वजह से plants खड़े हो पाते हैं. Okay, so they are responsible for providing support and anchorage. Apart from that, roots also help in the conduction of water and minerals from the soil. So it helps in conduction of water and minerals. Next, the next part of the plants are the stem. So stem also provides support to the plants, and it also helps in conduction of both water and minerals as well as food. Okay, so it helps in conduction of water and minerals as well as in the conduction of food. And in some plant, it also helps in storing food. Next, let's move on to the next part. The leaves, most important one, because they are the one responsible for preparing the food. So they are also called as the kitchen of the plant. So they are responsible for preparing the food. The next part of the plant is and are the flowers. So flowers, these are the one involved in reproduction of plants. So these are the different major parts of the plant and their function. So we will be learning more about these different parts and how they are going to help in reproduction. Most plants, they have roots, stems and leaves. And ये roots, stems and leaves को हम vegetative parts बोलते हैं plants का. So vegetative parts of the plants are roots, stems and leaves. So apart from the reproductive part, that is flower, the other parts of the plant are the vegetative parts. So after a certain period of growth, most plants bear flowers. हर plant एक वक्त के बाद flowers produce करते हैं. You may have seen mango trees, they are flowering in spring. And these flowers give rise to juicy mango fruit that we enjoy in summer. So we eat the fruits and usually discard the seeds. Discard means we throw away the seeds. Now these seeds will germinate and form the new plant. So this is how the life cycle goes on. The flower, ये fruits में convert होंगे. We will eat the fruit, we will throw away the seed. Again, the seed will germinate and there will be a formation of new plant. So what is the function of flowers in the plant? So let's learn about the flowers Flowers, they perform the function of reproduction in plants. As I have mentioned, flowers, they are the reproductive parts of the plant that are involved in reproduction. There are several ways by which plants produce their offspring. Offspring means बहुत सारे तरीकों से plants reproduce करते हैं. These are categorized into two types. Now, there are two types of reproduction. Now, this is very important. So the first one is called as asexual reproduction, and the second one is called as sexual reproduction. Now, as the word indicates, A means here there is involvement of only one parent. Okay, so in asexual reproduction, only one parent will be involved, and in sexual reproduction, two parent will be involved. So in asexual reproduction, plants can give rise to new plants without the involvement of seeds. On the other hand, in sexual reproduction, new plants are obtained from the seeds. Okay, so we have learned about two major differences in asexual and sexual mode of reproduction. Asexual reproduction में एक parent involved होंगे, but sexual reproduction में there is involvement of two parent. Asexual reproduction where there is no requirement of seed, but sexual reproduction में plants are produced by the help of seeds. Paheli wants to share something with you all. Paheli thought that new plants always grow from seeds, but she has never seen the seeds of sugarcane, potato, and rose. You all must haven't seen the seeds of these plants as well. So she wants to know how these plants reproduce. So we are going to learn how these different types of plants are able to reproduce without the formation of seeds. Let's start with asexual reproduction. So in asexual reproduction, new plants are obtained without the production of seeds. इस type of reproduction में seeds का कोई involvement नहीं होगा और seeds के use के बिना ही new plant produce होंगे. Now, one of the asexual mode of reproduction is vegetative propagation. Now, the name itself is going to help you all understand this method. Vegetative means वो type के reproduction methods जहाँ पे plants के vegetative parts use हुए हों. क्या क्या vegetative parts थे plants के? There were roots, stems and leaves, right? So जब भी plants roots, stems या leaves के use से reproduce करेंगे, इस method को हम vegetative propagation कहते हैं. So it is a type of asexual reproduction in which new plants are produced from roots, stems, leaves, as well as birds. Now, since reproduction is through the vegetative parts of the plant, that's why this method, this mode of reproduction is called as vegetative propagation. So in order to learn more about it in details, let's perform activity 8.1. Let's look at activity 8.1. So in this activity, we are going to need some flowers. We can take a flower of rose or champa. And is flower ka, we will cut a branch along with a node. Now, what is a node? So if you all must have seen the stem of these flowers, in stems में ये lines present होते हैं, right? And from these lines, leaves are going to arise. So this region where the leaves will arise is called as node. And the distance, the region between two nodes is called as internode. So this piece of branch that we have taken along with the node is called as cutting. So we are going to bury this cutting in the soil, and a node is a part of a stem of or a branch at which the leaf will arise. Now we will make sure that we are watering this cutting every day and we will observe its growth. And we have to also record the number of days taken for the roots to come out and new leaves to arise. Try the same activity by growing money plant in jar of water and record your observation. So हम मनी प्लांट भी यूज कर सकते हैं. हम एक ब्रांच लेंगे मनी प्लांट का along with a note and हम उसे वाटर कंटेनर में रख देंगे. And again we have to record the number of days it takes for the roots to arise and for the new leaves to form. Let's look at figure 8.1. That is a stem cutting of a rose. So this is a rose branch. You can see this parts. यहाँ से leaves उगेगा. So this is called as the node. Okay, and the distance between this two node will be called as internode. Now, let's learn about this bird. You must have seen flower birds developing into flowers. You all must have observed कि छोटे छोटे कली होते हैं, ये कली फिर बाद में flowers बनते हैं. Okay, so that is flower birds. वो ही आगे चल के develop होते हैं flowers में. Now, apart from the flower birds, there are birds in the axial point of attachment of the leaves at the nodes of the leaf, which develop into shoots. Okay, now these birds are called as vegetative birds. Let me show you the diagram. So you can see over here, this is the node part. Node part में ये एक bird है. इसे हम क्या कहते हैं? Vegetative bird. And this vegetative bird will transform into shoot. Okay, so जब भी हम इस branch को soil में bury करेंगे, यहाँ से जो birds हैं वो produce करेंगे shoot को. एक नया plant यहाँ से produce होगा, shoot बनेगा. Bird consists of short stem around which immature overlap vegetative birds can also give rise to new plants. Okay, so whenever we will bury this branch, small cutting on the in the soil, so from this bird, ये जो node में bird present है जिसे हम vegetative birds कहते हैं, ये birds develop करेंगे into new plants. Okay, so हमने क्या देखा? यहाँ पे कोई involvement नहीं था seeds का. एक bird से जो कि node में attach है, यहाँ से new plants develop कर रहे हैं. Okay, so since stems were involved in this part of reproduction, this type of reproduction, so it is a type of vegetative propagation. Now let's move to activity 8.2. In this activity, we are going to require fresh potato. So observe the scars on it with the help of magnifying glass. You may find birds in them. These scars are also called eyes. We have to cut the potato in small portions and we have to make sure कि हर एक portion में eye आ रहा है. Okay, हर एक portion में eye हो. अब हमें each portion को we will bury it in the soil. And we have to make sure that again we are watering these pieces regularly for few days and we have to observe the progress कि कब roots निकलेंगे, कब shoots develop होंगे. Now let me show you how do these scars and the eyes look like in the potatoes. Let's look at the diagram. So this is the diagram of potato and you can see these scars, right? इसी scars को हम कहते हैं eyes. And यहाँ से develop होते हैं नए plants. You can also find these kind of structures growing in ginger, also in turmeric. इस आई से न्यू स्टेम अराइज करेंगे जिसे हम कहते हैं स्प्राउट. Okay, and this sprout will grow into new plant. That's why it is said potato plant sprouting from an eye. Okay, so ये जो छोटे छोटे sprouts दिख रहे हैं ये develop करते हैं new plants में. Now let's talk about another example. Biophyllum, this is another kind of plant. It has birds in the margin of the leaves. If a leaf of this plant falls on a moist soil, moist matlab it is not too wet nor too dry. Okay. Each bird can give rise to a new plant. Let's look at the picture of this plant and understand this. So this is the leaf of Biophyllum. You can see that ये जो leaves के margin है, यहाँ पे birds grow कर रहे हैं. Okay, so these are the birds at the margins of the leaves. Now, जैसे ही ये birds गिरते हैं moist soil में, ये birds can develop into new plant. You can see over here, Biophyllum is also reproducing without the help of seeds. Okay, it is reproducing by the help of birds. Okay, so it is also an example of vegetative propagation. Roots of some plants can also give rise to new plants, like for example, sweet potato and dahlia. Plants है जो root से reproduce कर रहे हैं, जैसे कि sweet potato and dahlia. Now there are also plants such as cacti. They are going to produce new plants when their parts gets detached from the main plant body. Now each detached body can grow into new plant. Okay, so अगर cacti के main plant body से कोई part गिरता है soil में तो वो बॉडी पार्ट, डिटैच्ड टूटा हुआ बॉडी पार्ट से नया प्लांट ग्रो करता है. ओके, सो डिटैच्ड मीन्स द वन व्हिच हैज बीन ब्रोकन डाउन फ्रॉम द मेन प्लांट. So Buju wants to know if there is an advantage of vegetative propagation. So of course, we are going to discuss about the advantages of vegetative propagation very soon. So plants produced by vegetative propagation, the first advantage is it takes less time to grow. ये जल्दी grow करते हैं. They are going to bear flowers and fruits earlier than those produced by the seeds. Okay. So this is the first point. It is going to take less time and flowers or fruits jaldi produce honge. Next, the new plants, they are exact copies of the parent plants as they are produced from the single parent. So the new plants that have been produced by asexual mode of reproduction, they are just the copies of the parent plant. Later in this chapter, you will learn that these plants produced by sexual reproduction, they have characters of both the parents. Okay, so this is also one of the differences between sexual and asexual mode of reproduction. Asexual mode of reproduction में जितने भी offspring produce हुए, they are exact copy of the parents. But in sexual mode of reproduction, जो offsprings produce होते हैं, उनके अंदर दोनों characteristics होते हैं, both from the father as well as from the mother. So the plants produces seeds as a result of sexual reproduction. Okay, but जो भी plants sexually reproduce करेंगे, they are going to produce seeds. Now, let's move on to another type of asexual reproduction. So first type was vegetative propagation, जहाँ पे plants अपने vegetative parts के मदद से reproduce कर रहे थे. Now, बहुत सारे living organisms हैं जो asexually reproduce करते हैं. And the different methods are, let's look at the first one, budding. So there are tiny organisms like yeast, and they can be seen only under the microscope. Now, they grow and multiply every few hours if sufficient nutrient are available to them. Yeast is a single-celled organism. Okay, they are unicellular. एक single cell से बने होते हैं. हम इन्हें naked eye से नहीं देख सकते हैं. We have to use microscope, and they can grow and multiply very soon अगर उन्हें proper nutrients provide किया जाए तो. So let us understand how they reproduce. So let's get started with activity 8.3. So in this activity, we would require a piece of yeast cake, or we can even take yeast powder from the bakery or the chemist shop. अब हमें इस yeast का एक बस pinch लेना है, and we have to place it in a container which is having water. Now we will add a spoonful of sugar and हम इसे shake कर देंगे ताकि ये sugar dissolve हो जाए water में. We will keep it in the warm part of a room. Now, after an hour, we have to put a drop of this liquid on a glass slide and we will observe it under a microscope. You will see the formation of new yeast cell. Okay, now let us look at the diagram. If you will observe the slide of a yeast under the microscope, you will observe that this is how the yeast cell look like. And they will be having some outgrowth on their body. Okay, so this outgrowth is called as bud. अब जैसे ही ये बड डेवलप हो जाते हैं, मेच्योर हो जाते हैं, वो इस पेरेंट यीस्ट से डिटैच कर जाएंगे, टूट जाएंगे, एंड देयर विल बी अ फॉर्मेशन ऑफ अ न्यू इंडिविजुअल, अ न्यू यीस्ट. And in some yeast, there will be a formation of chain of births. Okay, and again, these births will develop into new organism. So these small bulb-like projection, ये जो bulb-like projection हो रहा है, these are called as bud. And these birds will gradually grow and gets detached from the parent cell and forms a new yeast cell. The new yeast cells will grow, mature and produces more yeast cell. Okay, so this is how the yeast cell reproduce. हर एक yeast cells में एक bird develop होता है, ये outgrowth है, yeast के body से ही ये bird develop होंगे. जैसे ही ये bird mature होंगे, they will develop into a new yeast. फिर वो new yeast से उस बॉडी में ही एक आउटग्रोथ होगा, दैट इज द बर्ड. ओके, ये पार्ट है बर्ड. जैसे ये बर्ड मैच्योर होंगे, ये वैसे तो अटैच्ड है, जैसे ही ये मैच्योर होंगे वो डिटैच हो जाएंगे, वो टूट जाएंगे पेरेंट यीस्ट से, एंड इट विल फॉर्म अ न्यू इंडिविजुअल. ओके, सो दे कीप ऑन, दीज यीस्ट सेल्स विल कीप ऑन ग्रोइंग, मैच्योरिंग एंड प्रोड्यूसिंग न्यू यीस्ट सेल्स. नाउ समटाइम्स another bird arises from the bird forming a chain of birds. इसी bird से बहुत सारे birds develop हो जाते हैं and it leads to the formation of change. Now, if this process continues, a large number of V cells are produced in a short time. अगर chain of birds भी produce हो रहे हैं, हर एक bird develop करेगा into a new individual. Okay, so within a short period of time, many or huge number of yeast cells are produced. We have learned that plants can reproduce by asexual mean of reproduction. Yeast can also reproduce asexually by the method of budding. Now, let's move on to the next type of asexual mode of reproduction, that is fragmentation. And let us find out which organism is going to reproduce by this method. So you all must have seen some slimy green patches in the ponds or some stagnant water bodies. Stagnant water body मतलब वो water जो move नहीं कर रहे होते हैं. Okay, so एक green color का layer form हो जाता है. These are the algae. How do these algae grow? Algae will require water and nutrients. And whenever water and nutrients are available, they will grow and multiply rapidly by this method of fermentation. These fragments or these pieces are going to develop into new individual. And this process will continue, and you will see within a very short period of time, the entire pond will cover it with that green patch. So this process continues and they will cover a large area in short period of time. Okay, so let us understand this with the help of a diagram. This is the parent algae. Parent algae का जो body है वो divide हुआ into two pieces. These are the two pieces, right? So ये जो pieces है इसे हम fragment भी कहते हैं. That's why this process is called as fragmentation. Okay, so ये जो दो pieces हैं ये develop करते हैं into new individual. So this is the process by which an algae, which is also called as Spirogyra, reproduce asexually. So let's move on to spore formation. Now there are fungi who reproduces asexually by this method. Let's learn about it. So in chapter 1, you have learned that fungi on the bread piece grows from spores, which are present in the air. So whenever we leave bread and open for a few days, you will observe that there is a development of some greenish layer on the surface of bread, right? So that is fungi. And ye fungi kaise develop hue? They are developed from the spores that was present in the air. So we are going to repeat the activity 1.2 that was present in the first chapter and observe the spores in the cottony mesh-like structures on the bread. So when spores are released, they keep floating in the air. As they are very light, they can cover long distances. So ये जो spores होते हैं, ये air में travel करते रहते हैं. Now spores, they are asexual reproductive bodies. Each spores is covered by a hard protective coat to withstand unfavorable conditions such as high temperature and low humidity. हर स्पोर्स के जो आउटर कवरिंग होता है उसमें एक ऐसा कोटिंग प्रेजेंट होता है जिसके वजह से वो अनफेवरेबल कंडीशंस को बर्दाश्त कर सकते हैं, जैसे कि बहुत हाई टेम्परेचर, लो ह्यूमिडिटी. दे कैन विथस्टैंड दैट बिकॉज ऑफ दैट कोटिंग. So they can survive for a longer period of time. Under favorable conditions, a spore will germinate and develop into new individual. Now, जैसे ही ये spores कोई भी moist surface में land करेंगे, ये उनके लिए favorable condition है. तो ये spores germinate करते हैं and it will develop into new individual. Now, there are plants like moss and ferns which also reproduce by the method of spore formation. Let us look at the diagram of reproduction through spore formation in fungus. This is how the fungi look like. So ये जो long filament part है, इसे हम hypha कहते हैं. And you can see this bulb-like structure. These are called as sporangium. Now this sporangium will burst and spores are released in the air. Okay? ये air में ही present रहेंगे and जैसे ही favorable condition इन्हें मिलता है, they will reproduce into new individual. Now, let us also look at the plants that reproduce by spore formation. This is the plant of fern. So they also reproduce through spore formation. You can see that there is the formation of spores under their leaves. Okay. So today we have learned about the different asexual mode of reproduction. We have learned about vegetative reproduction. We have learned about budding, fragmentation, as well as spore formation. In the next video, we will be learning about sexual reproduction. Till then, everyone, stay tuned. Bye-bye. Take care.